Call to order the August 28th meeting of the Cary Town Council. We have one council member missing tonight. Councilmember Bush is not here. She is away on a trip. And at this time, I would ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to recognitions, reports, and presentation. I do see scouts in the audience. I'm not sure what troop. 232. 232? 232, welcome. And please stand and be recognized. All right. Our first presentation is to recognize and appropriate funding for the Shane Pegram Family Foundation, and I'll recognize our Parks Director, John Collins, for this presentation, and council may take action after the presentation.
That's correct. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight at a somewhat unique place on the agenda, as the item I'm bringing up has some level of uniqueness and clearly falls, at least under my opinion, under the recognition portion. Earlier this year, we were approached by the Pegram family about their desire to support accessible playgrounds here in Cary. The family has strong personal connections to accessible needs and strong connections to Cary. The family believes that providing additional accessibility at a high-traffic playground and park would be a real benefit to the entire community. Davis Drive Playground renovation was in progress as part of Cary's larger, routine, ongoing capital maintenance efforts. The playground was identified by staff as being next in line for replacement based on factors such as playground age and condition. Luckily, this playground aligned perfectly with all of the donor's requirements due to its size, topography, and access to a shaded picnic shelter and restrooms. Staff discussed this option with the foundation, and they agreed this would be an ideal location. Upon council approval, construction is planned to occur this winter when park visits are lowest. Unfortunately, the family was unable to attend tonight. However, our plans do include a celebration of the partnership and an honorary plaque to be installed once the playground renovation is complete. There is an official step for us to take before we actually move forward. And that is our recommendation is that you, council, recognize and appropriate a $400,000 donation from the Shane Pegram Family Foundation for renovation and accessibility improvements at the Davis Drive Park Playground.
Wow, how exciting, how kind, how generous, and for such an incredible cause. Council members, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments.
Please.
I think that the Pegram family is being a trailblazer. And this is so exciting because we have so many people that have come to Cary. They've chosen Cary to be their home, and they say, this is my forever home. But philanthropy has been really hard for us to get off the ground here for Cary. And this is trailblazing because this is a family that says, this is our home. We care enough about it that we're going to give philanthropically to it and make our community better. I hope that this is an inspiration for a lot of other families, and people will say, yeah, I want to do the same. I want to give back into this community that I've made as my home. So I want to thank the Pegram family for this generous donation, for setting being a role model and a trailblazer. So I'm just so excited about this, and I cannot wait to celebrate with the family when this playground gets completed and that plaque goes in.
And did you give a time frame on that? Or did I
We're hoping winter of this year and spring of 26.
Okay. Other questions, thoughts, comments?
I just wanted to, of course, agree, Jennifer. I think we probably all feel exactly the same way. But I want to ask, is it possible for someone who's particularly generous to do this without the use of a foundation? Could an individual or a family just make a donation in this manner and have us allocate it in the same way?
So I am not a financial expert, but short
I see
answer is I
nodding,
believe
yeah.
so. We
yes.
would
Yes.
accept money. So
We, if anyone would like to donate money to the town of Cary, we will receive it.
I will
Okay.
also say that in 2004, so time is racing on, 2004, Jack and I started the Cary Community Foundation to give people an opportunity to give back to Cary. That foundation still exists today, and if you wanted to donate into Cary, you can donate to the Cary Community Foundation, and those endowed funds will be given for causes that benefit Cary. And so there is a vehicle for doing that, and I would strongly encourage people to take advantage of it because we do want to see our philanthropic giving going. And the more people that donate into the upkeep and expansion of our parks, the less pressure there is on our property taxes to do the same. So this is where you see thriving communities like Chattanooga and Cleveland that have established community foundations. They are doing all kinds of amazing projects, and you'll go to those towns and it'll be like Children's Museum from the Chattanooga Community Foundation, Gorgeous Park, Chattanooga Community Foundation, all these initiatives that are accomplished. So I really hope that someday this gets off the ground.
Are we ready for a motion to accept this generous offer from the Shane Pegram?
I will make a motion to recognize and appropriate the $400,000 donation from the Shane Pegram Family Foundation.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, John. Keep those donations coming in.
absolutely.
We're now ready for the manager's update, and I'll recognize our manager, Sean Stiegel, for his update.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought we had a very successful joint meeting with Holly Springs elected officials and staff on Tuesday. It was informative and engaging, and it provided such an important foundation for continuing to grow our relationships and shared interests. It's also good to have a new Cary citizen drop in after seeing publicity about the meeting. I want to give special thanks to Mayor Pro Tem Robinson for leading the event on our behalf. Holly Springs manager Randy Harrington said their council was quite impressed with ours. Hard not to be, of course, but I'm biased. And I was quite impressed with the Holly Springs Council as well. It was a great night for showcasing what effective local governance feels and looks like. As a reminder, town offices are closed on Monday for Labor Day, and solid waste collection will shift one day so that our very hardworking teams can enjoy extra time with their families. And a special note goes out to police and fire who do not enjoy the same benefit.
Just to follow up on your comment about Holly Springs, their mayor contacted me today and talked about how impressed he was with our
Nice.
council.
Very nice of him.
And would like to meet with me for further discussions and hopefully the mayor pro tem because of our experience on certain growth issues. And of course, outstanding.
Absolutely, yeah.
So look forward to that coming up in the future. All right, we'll move to item number 3 on the agenda. It's Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out through written comments or by calling in or by attending here in person this evening. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask you please take a seat in the rows to my right that are now being highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments and may speak on any town-related topic as long as it's not a public hearing. And that is to your benefit because you get more time to speak at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There is a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When 30 seconds remain, it will turn orange. And when your time is expired, it will be a flashing red light, and that's the point. I will interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. I would ask that our speakers please be respectful in your comments. Direct your comments to the entire council and not to an individual. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please respect that this is a business meeting. Do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, use props, or anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out. And first, I'll call on the town clerk for any written comments or call on any registered speakers.
We had 3 written comments and 3 registered speakers. Nancy Tackett expressed concern about the lack of regulations on Airbnbs and similar short-term rentals. They noted that such rentals bring frequent strangers into the neighborhoods not designed for this use and describe feeling unsafe with Airbnb operating next door. They urged the town to reclassify these units as businesses to better protect neighborhoods. Bridget Boja reported ongoing flooding, and this person submitted written comments and also plans to speak, so I'll let them summarize. T.C. Morphus, writing on behalf of the neighbors adjacent to proposed rezoning at 227 and 309 Barbie Road, 24 REZ 13, urges council to delay or deny the request until the developer demonstrates stormwater from the project will not worsen flooding on their property. They emphasize that existing runoff from the Destin development already causes flooding and that compliance with ordinances alone is insufficient, and that approving increased density without addressing these issues would be irresponsible. So our first registered speaker is Bridget Boja.
Oh, she's
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Bozier. I'm a grandmother and a mother of 3 adult children who have gone through the Wake County Public Schools and the North Carolina universities. I come here tonight to address a very important health issue regarding a water drainage problem caused by flooding in our town home here at Twin Oaks. My family has been residents here in Cary for over 25 years. We moved back to Cary about 3 years ago. We love the people. I love my neighbors. These townhomes at Twin Oaks are experiencing a serious ongoing landscaping water drainage issue which causes severe health hazards. Several other neighbors also experience water throughout their homes during simple rainstorms. Just 2 weeks ago, 3 inches of rain invaded our entire first floor ranch home. I had to hire contractors to remove carpeting, dispose of furniture and personal items. I have already contacted our HOA, but they stated they do not have resources to help. I have no flood insurance, didn't think I need it. I have a brand new roof and gutters. The gutters and roof are not the issue. The landscaping grading is not allowing drainage to divert the waters. This is a serious flooding problem and needs a solution. I'm not sure if it's the town of Cary or Wake County Engineers Planning Board or what the next step is in a process for a resolve, but I am asking for a remedy to divert the rainwaters coming into our homes. Again, this is not a one-time occurrence. We constantly fear mold growth and mosquito infestation. Many of the neighbors of the Twin Oaks townhomes are 65 and older and long-time residents of Cary for over 40 years. They have a right to age in place. We are asking to relieve the community members of this continuous pain and suffering and anguish, for we are living in damp, moldy, mosquito-infested conditions. The town needs to make provisions for us at Twin Oaks. Again, I am reaching out to the town of Cary and Wake County Engineers Planning Board to have the property correctly surveyed for a timely solution to a remedy to this health hazard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker
Ms.
is,
Johnson, will you make sure 311 gets a copy of that
yes,
so that someone can contact them?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Wesley Spears Newsom.
Good evening, Council. I'm Reverend Wesley Spears Newsom of Greenwood Forest Baptist Church, just down the road in Maynard. I'm coming here both as a pastor in our community who works with housing issues, as well as a Cary resident for coming up on 10 years now. And I love living here and love what our town has provided and what it continues to provide for those who live here. I'm concerned going into the future, given our falling revenues and the challenges that we face as a town, that we need to redouble our commitment to figuring out how we can accommodate more people, more taxpayers, a growing tax base, and ensure that we have a sustainable revenue source for the town going into the future. I believe critical to that will be building more housing. Not just affordable housing, but housing in general all across Cary. I recently had the pleasure of meeting George Bailey, who has worked on very many houses in Cary. If you go on the north side of Cary, you're going to find streets that have all the names of his family members and all these houses that he's built over the years. But what George wanted to talk to me about was not a commercial profit-driven development, but the last one he says he wants to be an affordable housing development. The case that will come before you later, 25 REZ 11, will be for an affordable housing development on the north side of town. And after walking around with Mr. Bailey, visiting the neighborhoods he's helped build, seeing the site and the plans for it, and even walking through the family cemetery here in town, I was impressed with Mr. Bailey's dedication to not just housing, but affordability in Cary. So I'm here today to urge you when that comes up later this year to support it and to support it enthusiastically, because we don't have a lot of developers who are walking in and saying, I want to build this and I want to build it to be affordable. And not just as a concession or as an add-on, but the core of what the development seeks to do. I hope that we have more developers like George who come and seek to build projects like this, but I also hope we just see lots more projects that will build lots more housing, because I believe we need density and we need affordability, but above all, we just need homes, because this is a wonderful place to live and we need to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last registered speaker is Gwendolyn Murphy.
Is Ms. Murphy here?
Oh, she's getting up right
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Gwendolyn Murphy, and I'm here about Go Cary. The buses, the new buses you put out they're very uncomfortable because they try to fit so many people, 4 and 5 people on that bus, and you can't get 4 and 5 people on the bus because you can actually only get 2 people in the back seat. Because if you lower down that smaller seat on the new bus, it hurts people's legs. So I'm here as a spokeswoman to talk about also the ramp, the short ramp. It's wobbly. There's nothing to hold on to. At least people talk about it was more safer with the old buses. They were more sturdier because you can hold on at least to the door when you walk down that ramp. You have nothing to hold on to that ramp. If somebody fall, they might sue. So I think you all need to check into them new buses that you put out there, because I asked that I need to get names for the riders, and they said they will put their names on a list if it's necessary, because it's not safe. Also, Cary Senior Center. Now they have, as far as trips concerned, which is discrimination, they have level 1, level 2, level 3 in their book. In other words, they don't want walkers really on the bus because there's nobody to accommodate the walkers when we go on trips. Well, there was no problem the years before when people had walkers, because walkers fold up. And it's not that many people that go on trips with walkers. But people, I mean, just because you have a walker, a disability, that doesn't mean that you can't walk. Walking down the sidewalk, I walk up 8 steps and 8 steps down every day. And so I'm just here now to tell you, maybe you should ride on Go Cary buses, the new ones, and see how they really are. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Mr. Stiegel, will you get Ms. Blasey to contact her? Thank you. If you're here and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, not a public hearing, now's your opportunity, and I would invite you forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished council members. I bring you greetings from Cary First Christian Church, 1109 Evans Road, Cary, North Carolina, where I serve as senior pastor. My name is Reverend Cynthia McCants, affectionately known as Pastor C. This proposal, Vermeil Place, is not just a building that we are proposing. It is about people, about history, about legacy. Vermeil Place carries the name of Vermeil Evans, but it's also the story that stretches back more than a century of the roots here in Cary. The Evans family has been rooted here in Cary for more than a century. Their story began with Charlie and Matilda, and they purchased 75 acres of land near what is now Dutchess Village, including the property that the Evans family has their cemetery located on High House and Old Apex Road. Among their children, Clyde Evans carried his parents' legacy of faith, education, and community development alongside his wife, Vermeil. Clyde shaped Cary's civic and spiritual life. One of the family's most enduring contributions is tied to education. Clyde, along with James Lovelace Evans, worked with Wake County Public Schools to establish a facility because their original school was burned down. That school originally was named Clyde Albert Evans High School, which is now West Cary Middle School, located on Evans Road. The Evans family name is also not separately tied to the faith of the church. Our church, Cary First Christian Church, was built on land that was donated by Clyde Evans Sr. But the purpose, the legacy of Clyde and Vermeil Evans is now carried forward in the vision of Vermeil Place, a proposed affordable housing community named in Vermeil's honor. At a time when affordable housing is a pressing issue in Cary, Vermeil Place seeks to embody the same values that guided the Evans family for generations: faith, generosity, and service. This project is about honoring the family legacy. As part of the ongoing legacy, the Bailey Family Legacy LLC would like to make it clear that they want no intention of selling the land. They want the plan to be a multi-state developer recognized for affordable housing. So at this time, I thank you.
Thank you, Pastor C.
Thank you.
Any others to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, we'll close Public Speaks Out and move to our fourth item, which is the consent agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'll take a moment to review our consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. On the consent agenda, we have 24A06, which is at 227 and 309 Barbie Road, 24 REZ 13, same address, rezoning, technical correction to Cary's official zoning map, rejection of bids for the Optimus Farm Road Water Main Extension and Interconnection, that's WT1300. Cellco Partnership Verizon Wireless License Agreement, bid award for the annual water main replacement project, Cary Policy Review, and Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization called CAMPO Budget Amendment. I've heard from Mayor Pro Tem Robinson that she would like to pull the Cary Policy Review. Would council members like any other item pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
There's
Second.
a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now jump to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that applied for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Speakers now get 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first and second public hearing is 25A03, the Pittard Sears Road annexation, and 25 REZ05, the Pittard Sears Road rezoning. Principal Planner Aaron Puckett will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning nor the annexation tonight, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and it will return to council in a few months for action. Ms. Puckett.
Thank you, and good evening, council. This is a request to annex and apply initial Cary zoning to approximately 12.6 acres at 606 and 694 Pittard Sears Road. There is an annexation petition associated with this rezoning, 25A03, and as the mayor noted, action could be deferred on this item until the rezoning returns to you at a future date. The site is located in Chatham County on the northwest side of Pittard Sears Road, approximately 0.3 miles east of the American Tobacco Trail. The site is surrounded by detached residential developments. There are no overhead utility lines along the subject site's frontage on Pittard Sears Road. However, overhead lines are connected to power poles at 2 locations on the site, but per the LDO, new utility lines are required to be installed underground. Cary's GIS indicates a stream buffer impacting the northern portion of the site. Field determination of such features is required at time of development plan review. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan does not identify any greenway corridors within or adjacent to the site. A street side trail along the south side of Pittard Sears Road is currently under construction as part of a capital project that would complete a gap between O'Kelly Chapel Road and the American Tobacco Trail. Pittard Sears Road is identified as a 2-lane collector on Cary's planned roadway widths map, which requires roadway improvements, including sidewalk, along the site frontage. The site is currently within Chatham County and is zoned Chatham County Residential 1, R1. And the applicant proposes an initial Cary zoning of Transitional Residential Conditional Use, or TRCU. The applicant has also offered several conditions, including limiting development of the site to a maximum of 24 detached dwellings, or approximately 1.9 units per acre, committing to at least 75% of the lots being 8,000 square feet or larger. The remainder could be as small as 6,500 square feet. Ensuring lot size will be calculated exclusive of stream buffers, as would otherwise be allowed by North Carolina general statutes. Wiring all units for future electric vehicle charging in each unit's 2-car garage. Ensuring all perimeter buffers are located in common open space. Increasing the required site frontage improvements to accommodate a 5-foot wide bike lane. removing the temporary turnaround to the north on Batasso Drive, as that street would connect into this site, and installing a mid-block pedestrian crossing, which will include a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFB. A preliminary analysis against the Imagine Cary Community Plan finds the policies in several chapters apply, along with the guidance of the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan. As seen on this slide, the site is within the low-density residential subdistrict of the Chatham-Cary planning area. These areas recommend a maximum density of 2 units per acre, and this request proposes approximately 1.9 units per acre. The plan also underscores the importance of transitions in these areas, and in this case, the request proposes lot sizes and densities that are generally consistent with those northeast and east of the site, although those areas are within the denser, medium-density residential portion of the planning area. Densities are intended to generally decrease and lot size increase from east to west across the planning area. The site is largely surrounded by existing Cary development and could therefore address the LIVE chapter policy regarding infill. Regarding shape, transitions can be made via land uses, form, and buffers. The proposed rezoning would provide the same use as surrounding development, thereby making a logical use and form transition, although again, proposed lot sizes could be somewhat smaller than those of abutting neighborhoods. Buffers are proposed to default to LDO minimum widths, with the condition ensuring they will be located on common open space, as some buffers could otherwise be on individual lots, depending on the location of the 8,000 square foot lots. The proposed rezoning includes frontage improvements increased slightly to accommodate a 5-foot wide bike lane in lieu of the 4-foot bike lane that our cross-section otherwise requires. Additionally, the proposal would provide a pedestrian crossing on Pittard Sears Road with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFB, and this enhanced crossing would facilitate access to the street side trail being constructed on the south side of Pittard Sears Road. The proposed rezoning commits to wiring garages for potential future EV charging, which can help speak to sustainable energy practices, and includes a commitment to ensure required buffers are in open space, which can help better ensure tree preservation over time. A neighborhood meeting was held in June of this year, and 72 members of the public attended. Questions and concerns included those about site access and connections to the adjacent developments, questions about buffer requirements, and concerns regarding traffic, drainage, and loss of open space and tree canopy. Following the meeting, staff received calls and 311 inquiries from 7 citizens, most of which were seeking additional information about the rezoning process and opportunities to have their feedback heard. Notice of the public hearing was mailed to property owners within 800 feet of the subject site, which exceeds the state's and Cary's LDO requirements, and signs were also posted on site. This concludes my presentation. Worth Mills, the applicant's representative, is here to provide comments, and following the public hearing, I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would invite Mr. Mills up at this time.
Good evening.
Get you to move to the left. Thank you. Perfect.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners here on behalf of Greg Gala and Gala Investments LLC, who is the contract purchaser and rezoning applicant for REZ 2505. Ms. Puckett did a fantastic job covering the basics of the case, so I'll keep my comments brief, but we are here if you do have any questions. Again, just a quick recap, those 3 properties on the north side of Pittard Sears, total over 12.5 acres. The properties are currently owned by descendants and dear friends of James B. Slade, who was a longtime Chatham County resident. The current owners are elderly and live across the state at this time. Greg, who is a local developer and Cary resident, has contracted to purchase those 3 properties from those women, and he intends to annex all 3 into the town consistent with the Chatham County and Cary Joint Land Use Plan to develop a single-family subdivision of up to 24 homes. We've worked with the planning and transportation departments to craft the conditions that are before you this evening, And we have maintained a dialogue with neighbors and with neighboring HOAs. We had 2 neighborhood meetings where the planning department was involved in sort of running those meetings. We had another meeting last night with some of the various HOAs around the property, just a virtual meeting to recap some of the changes since that second neighborhood meeting. But we look forward to working with staff and with the neighbors as we continue to move forward, but happy to receive any feedback that you have or that neighbors have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. So now is the time for the public hearing for both the annexation and rezoning at Peter Sears Road. That's 25A03 and 25REZ05. And first, I'll call on the town clerk for any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 5 written comments and 4 registered speakers. Petra Nixon opposed the rezoning request, arguing that the square footage lots are much smaller than surrounding neighborhoods and that the new development should adhere to the existing lot size to maintain neighborhood harmony. James Sermucky, I hope I said that right, expressed concern about increased traffic and construction where on the road and asked if there is a master plan to resurface the road after the development. Jerry Canterbury supports the rezoning and development but raises safety concerns about the proposed condition. He urges careful roadway designs to prevent accidents and notes the new greenway as an alternate for the cyclist. Emily Martin expressed concerns about the stormwater runoff from the road affecting their property, noting significant flooding during past storms. They urge the engineering assessments and detailed stormwater management plans to be completed before approving the new development to prevent worsening the issue. And then Aaron Viduk supports thoughtful development, but raises concerns about flooding, stormwater management, and impacts on wildlife.
Thank you.
And the first registered speaker is Minhart Ulrich. Okay.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor, esteemed council members. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. So my wife and I, so my name is Meinhard Ulrich, and we live on Sequoia Creek Lane. And we are residents of Cary for all of 2 months.
Welcome.
So we were looking here in the Cary area or in Cary for the last 4 to 5 years since both our kids were in college because we wanted to find our forever home. And Cary really fit the bill. It's a wonderful city and we love it here. And so shortly after we were under contract, we learned about the rezoning project, which really made us nervous. We didn't know what was coming. And we saw the preliminary draft plan of what was supposed to be built and where the roads would go. And we were very concerned. Also what happened, and I think there's a theme here, and I heard it a couple times, we had serious flooding in our backyard. So we have actually mitigation. We have a drainage system in the backyard, and still, when it rains hard, there comes a river down from that area that is about to be developed and floods our backyard and brings all the pine, straw, and everything down, right? So that's a concern. So that brings me to 2 of the concerns I have, or we have, about this new zoning and the new development, which we asked to be addressed probably by the builders by making certain concessions as to what they propose. So one is we are concerned now with the higher elevation and having more impervious land, so more sealed land, that even more rain comes down to us and floods us even more. So that is the one concern. The other one is in that initial draft, we saw that a road was planned just behind Sequoia Lane at the other end, as it were, from that development to also go and connect with O'Connell Road on the other side of Pettit Sears. And if that was to happen, the 5 houses on Sequoia Creek Lane would be surrounded by 4 roads. So behind that, McConnell, on the other side, Sequoia, and then Betasso and Betacias. And that is, well, makes that little paradise that we all have there a little less so. And so, as I said, I would appreciate the builders making concessions that alleviate these concerns, and I thank you for your for the time to speak here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could I ask that you just point with the mouse at the lot that you live in so I can understand where the flooding is going into?
And this is our lot here.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Knutz.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I'm David Kuntz. I'm on the board of the Homeowners Association for Dunhill, and I've had the pleasure of meeting with the Councilwoman Banzel and the developer, Mr. Gala from Gala Investments, and some of our discussions of getting acquainted with this project. And again, with great respect to the people who we've already been speaking to, we have some concerns on behalf of Dunhill, and Dunhill is farther down Pittard Sears from the development that's being proposed. We represent 38 houses, and then below us is Waycroft, another 50-some houses. And we already are experiencing a lot of traffic on this road, and we're concerned that the conditions that are currently in the specifications for the rezoning, 24 dwellings may be too dense for what the infrastructure might be able to support. I mean, I know that it's pretty much an up or down vote for the council, and will be ongoing discussions, but our proposal would probably be to be more consistent with the gradient of lot sizes going down Pittard Sears, which are currently averaging about 10,000 square feet, and Sequoia Creek, which is north of the proposed development. Dunhill, we average about 12,000 square feet per lot, and then Waycroft averages 20,000 square feet. The mix of the 8,000 square feet lots that are proposed in this development and the 6,500 square lots average about 7,625 on average for the 24 lots, which is kind of an outlier if you were to look at the gradient going from 10,000 to 12,000 to 20,000. If you were to make the condition 15 dwellings or less, it would be equivalent to 12,000 square feet per lot. And I think would probably be more consistent with the overall look and feel of the community. I suspect that Mr. Gala and Gala Investments is in the position of trying to crowd the 24 dwellings onto the 4.2 or so acres that they have to work with to develop, because about half of the, or at least a third of the property that's being purchased is really not developable because of watershed considerations and other regulatories. And then when you take into consideration roadways and so on, they only have about 4 acres left. But I suspect that there's a windfall that would go to the sellers by selling the 12.6 acres. They're packaging in, roughly 6 acres of unusable or undevelopable land that the developers having forced to make the economics work on the remaining 4.2 acres. So if we approve the rezoning as currently proposed, we're pretty much giving a windfall to the sellers and then leaving the homeowners that currently live along Pittard Sears and any subsequent developers like Mr. Gala to try to make the economics work without the benefit of any engineering studies to know what the soil will require in terms of watershed management, what the traffic studies show. So we're kind of making this rezoning blind without knowing what the economics will really support. And 24 dwellings is about as much as he can probably try and fit and still meet the joint land use plan of 2.0 dwellings per gross acre. But in actuality, with this usable land, they're really going to be almost double that standard, closer to 3.5 to 4 dwellings per acre of what's usable. And so again, on behalf of our HOA, I'm proposing that maybe if, as this goes farther through the process, that the condition get ratcheted down to 12 to 15 dwellings per acre. And that's my.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Weigel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is John Weigel. I'm on the board of, the Dunhill HOA. As a matter of fact, I live in that house right there. And David expressed to you some of our concerns, particularly the ones about density, so I wanted to add a comment to that. On this map here, right at the top of the hill, I lost the cursor. Anyway, right at the top of the hill, there's a development that's going to be on the south side, this development being on the north side. On the south side of the hill, there are 6 acres set for development there. This is where Mr. Slade's home was, that's now been torn down. There are 7 homes planned for that 6 acres, and they haven't started development yet. But if you use that ratio against the ones that David just mentioned, what we have is 7 homes going into 6 acres with supporting infrastructure. Here we have 4.6 acres where you want to put 24 homes? Interesting. I have a commercial development background. I'm retired now. But you have a 12.5 acre gross calculation there. I'm used to a world in which we have a term called usable acreage. You have 4.6 acres for 24 homes, when right across the street you've got a developer who will probably appear in front of you before long, who's going to put 7 homes on 6 acres. There are a great deal of differences between the 2 parcels of land. I just wanted to mention too, you talk about a bike lane on the north side of Pittard Sears. Where does that bike lane go? That bike lane goes right over a very steep hill that runs right down to our neighborhood. There's a huge blind spot there. You're going to have to cross, if you're on a bicycle, you're going to have to cross that street to get on the multi-use trail. I watch people do it every day who ride their bikes down to get on the American Tobacco Trail. And I can't tell you how many head-on collisions, close calls, thank goodness. That's not what this is about. But close calls and people being forced off the road, or else we just come to an absolute stop and move up the hill at the speed of the bike. This trail that's being built now will solve a lot of that problem. Hopefully, cyclists will go up that way. But if they live across the street in this very dense development, what do we have there? And all you have to do is find a couple of kids chasing each other on bicycles, running out a bike lane and making a hard left turn across Pittard Sears on that blind hill. I don't think that's a foolish concern or consideration. I think my last comment has to do with water. Every time I talk to somebody who appears before you from a neighborhood standpoint, I hear stories about water, stormwater, whatever. I spoke to a developer earlier today who has completed his development, it's not in our neck of the woods, who said to me he's being killed financially by the follow-up requirements of the town of Cary for whatever compliance he needs to rectify for the neighborhood before he can get final approval to pull out of the neighborhood. So it's a real concern of ours too on our side of Pittard Sears. I would think that that's a key situation going forward. Finally, traffic study. If you look at Colmar Manor where you pull out and make a left turn, that's the first opportunity for 2 times to lose your life. People come down that hill without regard for speed. Thank goodness there are a goodly number who take their time, but I can't tell you how many times I've had to really hammer the accelerator to make my turn before somebody hit me. And I had look right, nobody's coming, look left, nobody's coming, look right again, pull out, and your life's in danger. The only thing worse than that is trying to get out on O'Kelly Chapel, but that's for another meeting. I do thank you, though, for allowing me a moment to share our concerns with you. The folks in our area are deeply concerned, not about the rezoning necessarily.
I'm sorry, I'm
but
gonna
about the
ask-
density.
ask you
Yes,
to
sir.
stop.
My apologies. Thank you.
No problem.
And our last registered speaker is Penuel Economides. Okay.
Economides. I had a teacher with that same name.
Really?
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, and all the people that I met from the city and the town at my home about a week ago. My name's Manuel Economides. I live in Sequoia Creek. We've been there for 4 years. We love the town. We love what the town's doing, so we appreciate all the work that all of you people do all the time. But there's 3 concerns I have about the development that's going on. It's going to go into that pie-shaped area along Pittard-Sears Road. The 3 concerns are density, traffic study, and stormwater runoff. And I think you've heard those same concerns by several other people that came up to the microphone, and I appreciated their comments, but being the way I am, I have to give my 2 cents as well. As far as the stormwater runoff goes, I know from talking to the town people, town personnel, that Cary prides itself in its stormwater runoff, stormwater plan, reviews, everything that gets done to keep stormwater from being a problem. But I heard a lady come on way before us in the public speak out talking about stormwater. I know that our neighborhood, 30% of the homes had to invest in their own properties, including myself, to avoid the problems with stormwater. There's 3 extra basins on my lot alone. And I also know that I've witnessed the stormwater coming off of that higher elevation parcel into the backyards of the homes along Sequoia Creek to the point where it streams. I also know that Waycroft Preserve, Dunhill Estates, and Carolina Preserve have issues with stormwater. So while I hear that we have the greatest plan in the county for the towns in the county compared to Apex or Morrisville or whatever other towns are in the county, it seems to me like it needs to be improved upon because something's missing if you have this many people talking about stormwater runoff. And that's the one concern that I have. Now, some of it was addressed or talked about when we met with the developer last night, which was good, but it doesn't satisfy my concerns, nor does it allay my concerns that the new community isn't going to cause us more problems with stormwater because both Dunhill Estates and Sequoia Creek are below the land that's being developed. So something needs to be done to make sure that water doesn't come down. As far as traffic study goes, I don't quite understand when a traffic study is required for a given intersection. I've read the LDO. I know it's 100 commuters coming at peak hour into an intersection. But what I want to point out is Pittard-Sears Road is a one-way road. You now have 44 homes in Waycroft Reserve. You have 38 homes in Dunhill Estates. You have 20 homes in Sequoia Creek. You have 150 homes in O'Kelly Chapel Courts, and you have 1,360 homes in Carolina Preserve. Yes, if you take the 24 homes that Greg wants to put in that parcel, there's not going to be 100 commuters emptying out onto Pittard-Sears Road at the peak hour. But I guarantee you, there's going to be more than 100 commuters going down to O'Kelly Chapel and Pittard Sears Road at the peak hour. So something needs to be done about a traffic study for these communities as they add on to a road that has one way in and one way out. The third point, density. Sequoia Creek is an average of 10,000 square feet per lot. Dunhill is an average of 12,000 square feet per lot. Waycroft Reserve is an average of 20,000 square feet per lot. What we'd like to see is something closer to that than just 8,000 square feet per lot. We're happier that the developer has made a condition that 75%.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you at this time.
Okay.
Your time has expired. If you have additional comments in writing, we'd love to see them, and you can leave them with the clerk, and she'll make sure we get a copy.
I've pretty much said it all a bunch of times, so they know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last registered speaker.
If you are here in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Any other speakers for this public hearing?
Hi there, I'm Petra Nixon. Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. I'm a member of Sequoia Creek. Most of the concerns are addressed. I just want to add one more thing to the traffic pattern, which I think needs to be considered. I know the proposal says removal of temporary turnaround on Batasso Drive. That is basically right here. And I'm fearing with the traffic, especially if we are having that density in that new development, that future traffic will actually shortcut the Batasso Drive down from here into this. And I don't know why we need to make that open and increase speed maybe along that way when there's also a proposal to get in from Pittard Sears Road. So I want the traffic study to maybe look at that too, why we would need a turnaround open up, which usually increases speed. I mean, we can make a walkway that people can walk between the neighborhoods, but do we really need a road that way? Because we have a lot of problems on the other side, where there is the Carolina Preserve, where people speed through too, and those are a lot of elderly communities because it's a 55 plus, and they have the same issues, and I'm afraid we're creating the same problem on the left side. So I want to add that to the traffic study. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And before I open it up to my colleagues, I would like to ask my questions, make my comments. Let's talk about, first of all, the road. The road is a state road?
That's right.
And what is the ultimate width of that road?
Let me double check here. It's only a 2-lane collector, so it's not very large.
Never going to change.
I'm sorry?
You're saying it's never going to change?
Oh, on our plans, we don't call for it. I can't say never.
Okay. Never say never. That's right. Okay.
Time.
And I'm not going to talk about the connectivity because I know the Mayor Pro Tem always talks about connectivity, so I'm going to leave that one. We'll talk about flooding. My understanding is we have a 100-year storm requirement. Let's address what I heard this evening. The lady that spoke earlier is in Twin Lakes. Was that where she was? Mm-hmm. And that was a pre-2000?
No, that was 2006.
At that time, I believe we did a 5-year storm or 10-year storm.
More than 5, but less.
Yeah, so I heard you need to revisit. We have many times, and now it's at 100. To give you an example, downtown Park, there was flooding all in downtown. 100-year storm, flooding went away. That's an example of the 100-year storm. I totally get you don't trust me, and that's fine. I'm just letting you know there are examples of existing 100-year storm that have worked. And that's where we are right now. Of course, with climate change, we might have to go to a 1,000-year storm in a couple of years, who knows? But right now, that's where we are, and it does seem pretty successful. So staff is correct in saying that we have success in where we are today. Joint land use plan, I just want to make sure not only do we have to approve this, but Chatham County has to approve this. Is that correct?
So they essentially make a consistency determination, and that's really just rooted in, does it follow the density in the plan? So we have reached out to Chatham County's planning director. He has confirmed via email that from their perspective, it would be consistent because the density is at 2 units per acre.
So in layman's term, they've already made a decision.
Right, you're the only body making a decision on the rezoning. They're just giving us their input in terms of, they feel it's consistent with that one very focused aspect of our plan.
Okay. And somebody did mention this. I want to clarify this about lot size. We do have to evaluate and make a decision on what is proposed. We cannot require the applicant to change their lot sizes. So somebody said, you have a yes or no vote on this, and that's absolutely correct. What is proposed when we get to voting day, which is several months away, that's what we evaluate, and we say yes or no to that. Density around, excuse me, density around the proposal is, I heard residents say this, I want to make sure I can validate that it is higher than what is proposed in this development.
So slightly, so to give some context, and the numbers that were cited seem to be pretty on par with what I've got from our approved development plans. The Sequoia Creek development to the north, that was a maximum density of 2 units per acre, so that's essentially the same as what's proposed here. Slightly larger lot sizes, their minimums were a little above 8,000 square feet. Dunhill, which is the development you see directly to the west on this map in the yellow, that is lower at 1.4 units per acre, larger lots, minimum of 12,000 square feet. And then across the street in Carolina Preserve at Amberley, that is within a PDD. It's also in that medium density area of the Chatham plan. So that's a little denser, around 3.38 units per acre, and smaller lots in there, closer to a little over 4,000 square feet.
I'm sorry, that's Carolina Preserve at Amberley is
3.38, right, the development across the street, across Pittard Sears.
And my feelings to the developer about what is proposed with the density, usually the averages work for me and I don't have an issue, but there is a lot, as was mentioned, of undevelopable land, so the feel of this is going to be too dense. So I have a concern with that. So I'm just expressing that for the applicant's interest, that they know that I have a concern with that. And those are my comments at this time, and I'll invite my colleagues.
Do you want to let Sarika, because it's her district?
It's your district.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank each one of you for your engagement. I also, in full transparency, I want to share that I met the HOA board members from 5 subdivisions, or maybe 4, and I made, okay, Sequoia, Waycroft, Carolina Preserves, and Dunhill. And we had a 2.5-hour-long meeting. Dana was with me, and Scott, to kind of, and Billy, and to explain what town's process is and the rezoning process is. And we understand that, you know, it was, it's something new for the residents, and there are a lot of, you know, formalities, and we went through the process line by line with all of them, and they appreciated our time and attention. I understand that right after that, we requested the applicant to meet with the residents and discuss what exactly, how can we meet like somewhere in the middle. And I think that meeting already happened. I read some feedback from that meeting. Sounds like that the applicant was ready to drop 1 unit to kind of adjust the density. But obviously, it's still not very fully confirmed until they go through the engineering plan. Is that correct? So I think from a density perspective, we don't know yet exactly what it's going to be. They're saying to maximum 24, but they don't know for sure what it's going to be. So it's still like not determined, or to be determined rather. I think I'm definitely concerned about the flooding and the stormwater issue. I hear that there's a theme across the board, and I understand, Anna, you explained everything in greater detail, what Town of Cary does, but I don't know if there is something we can really discuss and, understand what exactly can be done in this, on this subject. The other one, traffic, and Scott, is Scott here? And I think Scott mentioned that Councilwoman Con Johnson once requested for a joint traffic study for projects coming on Barbie Road, which made sense rather than going individual project by project. And I think you mentioned that it's still under review and the staff is going to present that for council's policy decision if that can be adopted. And if so, that will help us use that policy to do a joint study here. Did I say it right? Okay, perfect. So, so I think I'm not saying that the concern does not exist. I'm saying that there was a process that was discussed with the residents that potentially could help them with a traffic study, which will give a very high level understanding of the traffic inflow and outflow from that road. I just feel like, the communication is going well between the applicants and the residents. And I would really highly recommend that we continue to have those discussions and make sure that the staff is in the loop and we continue to build upon what we have. At the end of the day, we want this to be a very happy situation for the applicant and for the residents. And obviously, the council is always here, so you can always reach out to us to share your concerns.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I'll make comments. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just, Councilmember Bonsall has that absolutely correct. I do consistently feel as though we are seeing an aggregate number of trips, right? That when we look at the developments as they, carry on, that they would definitely meet the threshold for a traffic study, but because they are piecemeal, right? They don't. So I think there's definitely, I'm glad to, and I do know that the work is being done and they're looking at that. So I think, thank you for bringing that up because it is important, I think, for residents, especially when they give us feedback on these projects. And we do hear about the traffic challenges. Nobody knows what it's like to drive near your home like somebody who lives in the home, right? So I can tell you, what it's like in my immediate neighborhood, and I can go and drive through your neighborhood, right? You can tell us about the traffic challenges, but even, I maybe once or twice or three times, even if I try to make a lot of trips, we don't really understand that quite as well as the residents do. So we do hear you about that, and it is, you can count on our staff. They'll do what's necessary to make sure we have a really good understanding of what those challenges are and how we might be able to ultimately get educated. That's what we need when we make these decisions. It's difficult to rely on anecdotal reports. So if we have the combination of those anecdotal reports from the individuals that live there combined with some kind of really formal or informal process that we rely on with staff and us and the applicants in these situations to inform this process, it'll give us a lot better picture and help guide us a little bit better in our decisions. So I do know that work is being done. And I had one other quick question, just a point of clarification. Someone mentioned a one-way road, and where's that?
Pittard Sears is 2 lanes. I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I believe the gentleman was speaking to the fact that it's all residential, so everyone is traveling the same way during peak hours, essentially.
There's no other
It is a 2-lane collector currently.
Okay. And it is a DOT road?
It is a DOT road, yes.
Okay, thank you.
If someone wanted to avoid the intersection of O'Kelly and Pittard Sears, could they go through Carolina Preserve and find another route out?
I would have to check for sure, but that's such a large development. I believe there would be other access points up to the north were they to go through that development.
Okay, just curious. Yeah, okay. So, couple points that have not already been mentioned. First, well, I'm going to underscore what the mayor said. The neighborhood to the north, Sequoia Creek, if the lots there are a minimum of 8,000 square feet, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
When I looked at this and I first saw TRCU, I had that immediate presumption that it would match that same density to the north. That would make me feel good if all of the lots in here were 8,000 square feet and they matched Sequoia Hill. I think that would be appropriate. I don't know that we need to have them be that transition size that transitions between Sequoia Hill and Dunhill, but wouldn't be bad either if it was like that transition. We often talk about the value of transition, so if it was 8,000 and larger lots, you know, transitioning between the 8,000 and the 12,000, square foot lots, I mean, I think that would be nice. The connectivity is something that we protect here, and by that I mean most people don't want to see their stub opened up to the adjacent community. That's something that we have heard over the years, but it is a policy and a practice that we stand by. And so when you have a subdivision and you have a stub, hopefully that sign is posted on that. That says future road connection, so that everybody buying in that subdivision knows that this road is going to connect someday to an adjacent community. Now, with that being said, there are things that can be done that will make it nicer for the residents. For example, that road, Colmar Manor Drive, doesn't necessarily have to go straight out to the east, and giving another street for these homes in Sequoia Hill or Creek to abut. It could actually meander down into the site, right? I mean, that would be decision made at the site plan unless they made a condition about the path of the road.
Correct, and in full disclosure, so let me actually pull up just as a reference. There is a known, what we believe to be an existing stream buffer feature that is on the site. So there is a chance at time of development plan that Colmar Manor could even just come in and cul-de-sac. It depends on whether they get the environmental permissions to cross. Otherwise, they could seek a modification of time of development plan to not have to make that crossing if that's a sensitive environmental feature that still exists. So there is also that context. There is a chance that Colmar won't complete a connection. Batasso would, assuming there's no similar.
Batasso is going to connect.
Connect into the site, yes.
Okay, all righty. Yeah, and that's, I mean, we put those little turnabouts there. I mean, that was a policy decision we made, I don't know, 5-6 years ago or more maybe, I don't know, because we had these stubs and people were doing like, putting their cars in reverse to get back out of there. And we said, wouldn't it be nice if we had a turnabout until the stub connected? But we don't want to mislead anybody. That's why we put the signs up that say future road connection. The 100-foot stream buffer also does a lot to help reduce flooding, you know, adding to the 100-year storm provisions that we have. But for those of you who live in adjacent subdivisions and you're experiencing some kind of flooding now, we do have a staff member who can come out and visit your site and look at it and see what might be causing that. Maybe it's the land grading or something like that. So we do have a staff member that can come out and look at that. Technically, you wouldn't think that these lots would be flooding that much since they're in a newer subdivisions. That's kind of surprising. Anyway, those are my observations. I'd like to see these lot sizes come up in size.
Other comments?
I have one more clarification I'm hoping for. So we've heard about the different minimum lot sizes, or what I think the residents were saying were average lot sizes for the surrounding communities. I'm curious, because I want to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples here. The lot sizes we're considering here for this project are not including the stream buffers in that calculation. So I want to make sure I understand that those stream buffers are in no way Because I'm looking, I see some of the lots, they have stream buffers in the lots, right? So I'm assuming that those average lot sizes are probably inclusive of stream buffers in, especially, I see Dunhill has the streams running through it. Probably there a little bit. It doesn't look like it's, on a lot of the lot, but I just want to make sure I'm comparing like to like.
Yeah, so, and I would have to go back and verify Dunhill's zoning conditions if they had a similar condition to count lot size outside of stream buffer, but if they didn't, then yes, it's possible they could have smaller lots in actuality because that state provision allows them to count stream area. Now, in no case can lots be platted into the buffers themselves, so those wouldn't be platted into the stream buffer, but yes, unless there was a zoning condition prohibiting it, it's possible that maybe they could make up lot size that way. I would need to verify from the development plan and the zoning conditions, but we could check on that.
I appreciate that. For me, just for me, right, it is easier for me to understand an acre or dwelling per acre number for density. But when you start talking about the lot sizes and whether or not they, what they do and don't include and all that, that's where it gets a little bit murky for me. So you're providing the units per acre for each of those adjacent neighborhoods. That's actually really, really helpful.
Yeah, and that is gross density regardless of whether they have stream buffers.
Yes.
So that is really more of an apples to apples comparison.
So what I would like to understand is at that 6,500 and also that 8,000, what is that dwelling as, expressed as a percentage in a way that it compares to the surrounding neighborhoods? Did I say that in a way that just made any sense whatsoever?
I see where you're coming from, but I look at it totally different. Like gross density can be very misleading to citizens because you're like, hey, it's only 1.9 units an acre, and people are like, well, that's pretty cool. That's a half acre lot, per lot. But you're counting, you have to take out the stream buffer out of that. So then if you take out that stream buffer, you say, well, what is the density for the remaining parcel?
That's
Right.
exactly what I'm
Okay.
asking for.
Yeah.
Exclude the stream buffers and then tell me what the actual units per
You're looking for
developable
the
acre
net
is.
density,
Yes,
essentially.
the
Okay.
net that's the proper language I was looking for. Thank you, Ms. Buckler.
But that's
what
why we have
Harold-
minimum and maximum lot sizes.
That's right, and that's what Harold's talking about, is that it's the feel, when it actually gets built, what is the feel? And sometimes developers will talk about the linear feet across the front of the property to suggest how tight those houses are gonna be, right? Maybe it's like 50 feet across or whatever. But for me, the square footage of the lots helps me understand what that look and feel is going to be like when they actually get constructed.
And I appreciate that, I truly do, but then if you are, then I want to ask, what's the setback and just how much house is going to be on that, on that lot? So then it becomes, the look and feel to me is almost entirely determined by how large the home is versus the lot size. So the lot size in and of itself, unless you consider the setbacks and all the rest of it, to me, that's what gives the neighborhood look and feel. And I think sometimes when you see very, very large homes on a lot that isn't also very, very large, that tends to feel a lot more dense, even though it's technically not a higher, unit per acre. So that's why I'm just trying to compare it more, so it's the exact sort of, I'm just trying to make it math,
So
right?
I want
A
to
little
jump
more
in
math.
here. I feel that it's a lot about authority. We don't have authority to make them do that. They have the right to propose basically average lot size.
Yeah.
So that's why my observation is, when you see a big chunk that's not developable, that really skews the average
Right.
lot size. So now you look at minimum and maximum lot sizes. And so that's where you really get a true feel of what this thing's going to look like. And that's where, for me, I have concerns it doesn't match what's around it.
Oh, I get it. And then the number we're giving is excluding the buffers. So what's proposed here, that was one of the conditions, is that it excludes that land. So I was just trying to make sure I was comparing them in the kind of the same way to understand, because I think it's really important to honor that expectation that it gets less dense as we move west, right? That's the spirit of it. And I'm wondering also, does the Chatham, I understand it's 2 units per acre or less, but does that density planning, guideline that we have for Chatham, does that also include minimum lot sizes?
It doesn't reference minimum lot sizes, but it does specify that that's also referring to gross density. So again, we're still keeping it all in the same apple
Apple
basket.
to apple. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
I do want to also express that the concern about the bike lane and any kind of like sightline distance problems and safety, I think that's something that the town should be looking at and just make sure that we're not creating something that's going to be a very dangerous situation.
Understood. We
Yeah,
can
so-
certainly talk to our colleagues in transportation about that.
Will they be adding curb and gutter along the frontage of Pittard Sears when they build?
Yes, along their frontage, they would be required to include that as part of the road improvements.
I need to go back out and drive there. I haven't been there for quite a while. So is most of Pittard Sears now curb and gutter and sidewalk?
There are some areas where it is missing, so it's a little bit of a piecemeal.
Is it the undeveloped land that's missing? Like everything that's been developed has put it in?
So mostly, but I believe some sections of the developed, like I would have to verify like the Sequoia Creek frontage, but I think there are actually some portions of that TRCU area where it may not be curb and gutter as well. We could double check on that.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in knowing that. Thank
We
you.
can certainly double
I mean, I
check.
can drive out there too. I don't need you to drive out and tell me about it, but I need to go out and drive there.
I know along Amberley, it's improved.
Okay.
'Cause we saw those improvements out there.
Other comments?
Not by me.
Okay. Perfect. So here, where we are in the process is basically the first step, even though you've done a lot of work to this point. I'm very encouraged to hear that the applicant has been meeting with the residents, and I would encourage you to do that, to come up with a solution that everybody's happy with. Your liaison here is Erin Puckett. If you have any questions, she's probably the best because she's going to have the latest and greatest information. Whereas we'll invite you to contact us anytime, but then we're going to contact Erin and say what's the latest and greatest. So she's the direct line. But where we are in the process, this is our first step. So now it goes to an advisory board of citizens, and they're going to determine if it matches our land use plan. It's called the Cary Community Plan, and you can see that on our website, and it's very detailed. Some of you mentioned it. Staff used it in their report today. There's several chapters. I think there are 10 chapters. And so you might want to read that to get familiar with that. So that advisory board is called the Planning and Zoning Board. They're not a decision-making body. They are a recommendation body. So they will review and in their opinion say it does or does not match the Cary Community Plan, and that will be their recommendation back to us. So in a few months, we will get their recommendation. We will get staff's recommendation. We will have all the public input, and at that point, we will make a decision. So it is in everyone's best interest to keep working this proposal, and whether you like it or not, to have, if it comes down to where the proposal is approved, you would have the best you could get. If not, that's fine too. We don't know. But I implore you to continue to work with the applicant, and again, thank you for working with the residents, and please do that. That's very important. And having said that,
Can I just say
Sure.
one last thing? Although I feel like separate from this discussion, we should look into the stormwater issues in that area because sounds like that's a consistent feedback that we are receiving. And I know that we discussed the process with the residents, but having our experts out there and just understanding what exactly is going on, I think that would be helpful.
Understood.
Thank you.
and with that, I thank you for being here this evening. Please stay involved, and hope to see you at another council meeting. So now we will move into our next item. Our next public hearing is for 24A04 Yates Store Road Assemblage Principal Planner Rachel Smith will introduce this hearing, and council will not take action on this item. Like the previous one, it will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Board. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Council. This is a request for annexation of approximately 48.79 acres at the intersection of New Hope Church Road and Yates Store Road. The request also includes about 2.66 acres of intervening right-of-way, bringing the total annexation area to 51.45 acres. The property spans both Chatham County and Wake County, with the county line running through the middle of the site. The Wake County portion lies within Cary's extraterritorial jurisdiction, and Cary services are available to service the entire property. The annexation is associated with rezoning case 24 REZ08, which proposes up to 92 dwelling units, with a maximum of 67 detached homes and 25 townhomes. The public hearing for the rezoning was held in March, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommended consistency with the Imagine Cary Community Plan in July. To coordinate with the decision on the rezoning, the decision on the annexation will return to council at a future date. This concludes the staff presentation. After the public hearing, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. So now is the time for the public hearing for 24A04, the annexation proposal for Yates Store Road assemblage. And I'll turn it over to our clerk to call on, or to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
No written comments and no registered speakers.
Okay. If you are here in attendance this evening and would like to speak at this public hearing, now is your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Council members have any comments about this proposal? It will pair up with the rezoning, and when we see it, it will come back with the rezoning, and we will address both of them together. We now move to our fourth and fifth public hearings, the annexation 25A04, and that is at 1412 White Oak Church Road, and the rezoning request at White Oak Church Road, which is 25 REZ07. And once again, Ms. Smith will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning nor annexation. It will return to us at a future date after the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board. Ms. Smith.
Thank you again. This is a request for annexation and application of initial town of Cary zoning for approximately 4.33 acres located at 1412 White Oak Church Road. The property is located east of the American Tobacco Trail and north of the White Oak Elementary School. The property is not within the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction, but is adjacent to the corporate boundary. Staff recommends holding the decision on the concurrent annexation petition, 25A04, to correspond later with the decision on the rezoning. The current zoning is Wake County Residential 40 Watershed, or R40W. And the applicant requests rezoning to Cary Residential 12 Conditional Use, R12CU, with the Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District and the Conservation Residential Overlay District for a maximum of 6 homes. According to Cary's GIS data, the site does not appear to be impacted by stream buffers. Field determination of such features will occur at the time of development plan review. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan shows the Raftery Future Park site just to the north and a proposed greenway trail to the west of the site connecting to the American Tobacco Trail. White Oak Church Road is a collector adjacent to the property. There are no overhead power lines on the site's White Oak Church Road frontage. The proposed zoning conditions include limiting the use to detached dwellings and associated accessory uses, a maximum density of 1.5 dwelling units per acre, which could allow up to 6 homes, and a minimum of 1,200 square feet of community gathering space, which is double the LDO requirement for a development of this size. The applicant has also offered pedestrian and roadway improvements, which include constructing a greenway or a street-side trail connection to provide non-motorized connectivity from White Oak Church Road to the American Tobacco Trail. Frontage improvements along White Oak Church Road would include bicycle accommodations, either in a 5-foot bike lane or in a separated facility, to be coordinated at development plan review, and a restriction that no individual residential driveways may have direct access to White Oak Church Road, which is a best practice for collector roads. Staff has evaluated the request against the Imagine Cary Community Plan. As shown by the blue star, the site is located within the green level special planning area. This special planning area supports a gradual downward transition in density, moving west from NC 540 towards the Chatham County line, with areas such as this west of the Flat Branch Stream not exceeding about 2.5 dwelling units per acre. Additional policy guidance includes shielding developments and a predominant land use of detached dwellings on lot sizes of a quarter acre or more. The proposed R12 zoning and density of 1.5 dwellings per acre generally meets this policy guidance, as well as the live and shape chapters of the Cary Community Plan. For live, the proposal would add up to 6 additional homes in Western Cary, with lot sizes and densities comparable to adjoining development. For shape, transitions are provided via the proposed use and density. The applicant's commitment to prohibit individual driveways on White Oak Church Road promotes the MOVE chapter policy of ensuring safety for all users and modes. The offered greenway or street-side trail connection from White Oak Church Road to the American Tobacco Trail, as well as the White Oak Church Road frontage improvements, which do include a bicycle facility, may help to promote safe multimodal street designs. When looking at the enriched chapter, policies may be partially met by the proposal, as the additional gathering space offered, 600 feet above the LDO minimum, may help to encourage open space preservation. A neighborhood meeting was held in June. 2 nearby residents participated. Questions and concerns were related to traffic and construction impacts. After the neighborhood meeting, staff has been in contact with a neighbor across White Oak Church Road regarding concerns related to their driveway access. Staff mailed notice of the public hearing to property owners within 800 feet of the subject site. This exceeds state and Cary LDO requirements for notice, and staff posted a sign on the subject site. This concludes my presentation. Isabel Maddox, the applicant's representative, is available to provide comments, and following the public hearing, I'm available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I would invite Ms. Maddox forward. Could I get you to move to the left? Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm Isabel Maddox of Nichols & Crampton Law Firm, 3700 Glenwood Avenue, Raleigh. I'm here tonight representing the applicant's White Oak Estates, LLC, the owner of this property. And with me are my clients, Samat Belina, Servini Revuri, Arcavius, and Santosh Naburi. Rachel did a good job of explaining the request. I won't go through that, but I do want to make one point. What is actually proposed here is for 5 homes on this property, and that really translates to a density of 1.14 dwelling units per acre. The current zoning at R40W would allow 1.08 units per acre, so mathematically, it's really not a big jump. And because of the shape, I don't think we're going to be able to get more than 5 lots there. So I think that it should be a really, I think it's a fairly benign request, and with some of the things we're doing, I think it'll be a nice development there. The property does abut the American Tobacco Trail, and the trail itself, the corridor itself is about 120 feet wide for maybe a 10-foot path. We're providing a 50-foot buffer adjacent to that, so you're talking about 170 feet here, which is pretty generous corridor for, fairly narrow path. It also abuts the White Oak Elementary School, and the school property actually includes its own buffer, which appears to be about 50 feet, outside the driveway of the school, and it's also fenced in. So I think as far as protection of the school children, they're going to be well protected because, you're going to have a fence around the school plus 50 feet. And then you hit our site and you hit a 40-foot buffer. And then you hit our stormwater facility, which is probably another 40 feet wide. And maybe it's 25 or 30 feet, maybe a little bit less. And so by the time you add all those up, there's a significant distance between where the school children are playing on the playground or in the classroom and these residents. We feel like these buffers are ample for what is really a low-density, single-family development. Just so it's 1.14 versus 1.08, single-family detached dwellings. We think we're providing generous buffers adjacent to the school and to American tobacco. We think it meets the vision for the eastern part of the Green Level Small Area Plan. It's an area that blends historic rural character with green suburban neighborhood, and will have access to open space such as the American Tobacco Trail, the future park, future greenway, and the park to the north. And the low density will limit impervious coverage, will be protective of the water supply and other natural resources, also as recommended in the Cary plan. And with the greenway improvements, bike lanes, and gathering space, that adds some more things that I think contribute to the community here. We do have a couple of cleanup items on the conditions, but we've been working well with staff on that and appreciate your support when it comes back to you. And certainly I and my clients are available for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now's the time for the public hearing for annexation and rezoning for 1412 White Oak Church Road. Annexation number is 25A04. The rezoning is 25REZ07. And I'll call on the clerk at this time for any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had one written comment, no registered speakers. Randy Daniels opposes the proposed rezoning due to the increased density potentially restricting left turn access from his driveway and concerns that higher density undermines the original R40W low density designation intended to protect the watershed.
Thank you. If you're here this evening and would like to speak at the public hearing, now's your opportunity, and I would invite you forward. Anybody to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And I ask Ms. Smith to come up so I can get some clarification. Usually R40s are designated in an annexation, but this is not annexed. So it is R40. So if it were annexed without the rezoning, it would get an R40.
So it's not in the ETJ. It currently has Wake County R40W in there. So if it weren't annexed, it would, I mean, once it's annexed, it has to be zoned something with Cary because it's not in the ETJ.
Usually we use that as a placeholder.
Correct.
R40. So, okay. My next question is, the proposal says up to 6 dwelling units.
Yes, sir.
And the applicant said there's only going to be 5. We have to consider worst-case scenario. So we have to consider 6. If you intend it to be 5, I would recommend that you put a condition in there that says it's going to only be 5. Otherwise, I'm viewing it as 6. So those are my comments, and I would open it up to other council members for their comments. Sarika, this is once again all about you.
Today is the day of District D, I think, Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much for sharing the details. I think I echo the same emotion. I was a little confused with the comment between 6 and 5. And if the intention is to make 5 units, potentially you may want to make that modification or add a condition. Obviously, you are going to determine this after your engineering work is done, is what I assume. But then that some clarity would be good. Could you explain what the resident, Mr. Daniels, has concern? Like, where is his house here? Like, could you tell us, like, what exactly is the issue that he's referring to?
Sure. His property is right here. And so White Oak Church Road, and it is a DOT road, is a 2-lane median divided collector. And so the way the zoning conditions are written, they're not going to have individual driveways off of here. So there'll have to be some facility to bring in, to a road to orient the homes, right? We don't know where that's going to be exactly yet relative to his driveway. I think his biggest concern after talking to our traffic engineering staff was because of the median divided situation. It could render him with a right-in, right-out only. Same thing with this property under review right now. That would render them also most likely with a right-in, right-out on White Oak Church.
And apologies for my ignorance, but is that because of this particular, that median is probably going to be there irrespective of whether this project comes up, right?
Well, so most roadway improvements are development-driven, right? It's on our future roadway widths map as a divided collector. So as it improves, as it develops, as it follows development, the developer will have to make the improvements to bring it up to the required standards.
But that's the town requirement, that's really, I'm just trying to understand, like, where is that requirement coming from? Is that town-driven? Because they're building a project there, they have to do that improvement for us?
They'll do the frontage improvements.
So it's really not their decision. If it was on them, they would say, okay, let's not do this, right?
Perhaps they would not want to spend money to do
Of
improvements.
course, right.
Correct.
So the concern is, what the concern Mr. Daniels is sharing, it's really with town requirement and not with their project?
Oh, correct, yes.
Okay. Is there any solution to that? Is there something that we can do to address?
You could always change your standard.
Okay. So I think that's a no.
Well, no, I mean, you can change the standard. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, thank you.
Other questions?
The 50-foot buffer to the ATT, is that a
Yes.
required buffer from the
Yes.
town, and that's why it's not a condition?
It is a required LDO
Okay,
buffer,
super.
correct.
And same with the 40-foot buffer adjacent to the school?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. And will this subdivision have curb, gutter, and sidewalks?
Yes, it will.
And will they be putting curb, gutter, and sidewalk along White Oak Church Road?
That would be required.
Okay, all right, those are my questions. I mean, otherwise, there's a lot of elements to this I think are very nice.
Other comments, questions? Okay, like the previous rezoning and annexation requests, this will go to our Planning and Zoning Board. They will review it and make a recommendation. It will come to council in a few months, and we will make a decision at that time. All right, moving on to the sixth and last public hearing is for the extension of 2019 bond orders. And Assistant Town Manager Dana Widmar will introduce the item. And Marcelo Olarte is also here. He's the Debt and Investment Manager, and he will present the staff report. And council may take action. Ms. Widmar.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and council. So, as you know, Cary has a long track record of financial stewardship, as evidenced most recently by the report card on the AAA bond rating. The next two agenda items are part of Cary's overall approach to financial management. So I'm pleased to have Marcelo Olarte join me. He's the Debt and Investment Manager, and you've all met Marcelo before, but I'd like to share a bit about his background since it's relevant to his responsibilities here in Cary. Marcelo worked for one of the three main rating agencies, Fitch. He's also been a municipal investment banker and served as a consultant to other municipalities before joining Cary staff. He manages our debt and investment portfolio based on the following well-established approach. For debt, Cary seeks the lowest cost possible, thereby saving money for Cary citizens. This involves watching the market for best opportunities, managing the timing of debt issuance, and engaging with investors or rating agencies. Second, for investments, first and foremost, Cary seeks security. Then Cary looks for the highest possible return within those secure options. Finally, Cary manages debt, investments, and overall cash flow to ensure we have appropriate liquidity. Tonight's presentations relate specifically to the debt component of the work, and of course, this also relates directly with the prioritization work that Council has engaged in over the past year. In Marcelo's presentations, you'll recognize some completed projects, some continued projects that are almost complete, and some information related to the reassessed projects. The first agenda item that Marcelo will cover is very typical. The bond extension allows Cary to sell the remaining bonds from the 2019 referendum for a total of 10 years through 2029. This is something that Cary has done with every bond authority over the last 25 years. The second item that Marcelo will cover tonight is new to Cary and reflects Cary's continuous embracing of best practices and innovation. Bond anticipation notes are like a bridge loan, which allows Cary to cover the cost of bond projects primarily from the continue list. These are projects that are nearing completion, such as the downtown public parking decks. This approach with bond anticipation notes allows council the opportunity to work through the remaining assessed prioritization to be able to utilize the remainder of the bonds. The reason you are receiving both of these items tonight in this specific order is because doing the extension first allows Cary to maintain flexibility with the term on the second item, the bond anticipation notes, while also, of course, extending the time frame allowed for any future bond issuance from the 2019 authority. I'll turn it over to Marcelo to get into the details.
Thank you, Dana, and good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the public hearing on the proposed extension of the 2019 bond referendum orders. State law allows bonds authorized under a referendum bond order to be issued at any time within 7 years of the referendum date. So for Cary's 2019 bond referendum, that would be 2026. This evening's proceedings allow for that to be extended another 3 years to 2029. As Dana mentioned, this is a process Cary has done numerous times before, dating back to the 1999 bond referendum, and the Local Government Commission has already reviewed this extension favorably. Back in October of 2019, Cary voters overwhelmingly approved the 2019 bond referendum, providing Cary the authority to issue up to $112 million of bonds for park projects and $113 million of bonds for transportation projects. In September of 2021, Cary issued $125 million of these 2019 referendum bonds, $90 million for parks and $35 million for transportation, leaving $100 million of authorized and unissued authority for a future date. Of that $100 million, $22 million is left for park projects and $78 million is left for transportation projects. This extension will provide Cary with an additional 3 years of opportunity to get bond funding to continue advancing these high priority initiatives while upholding long-term financial sustainability and flexibility. This slide provides the timeline for the extension. The Local Government Commission reviewed the application last month, and Council called for the public hearing at the July 24th Council meeting, and the notice for the public hearing was published on August 12th. Following tonight's public hearing, Council will have the opportunity to adopt and authorize the extension of the bond orders. The bond orders extension will then be published and will take effect by state statute 30 days after the publication date. Mayor, this ends the presentation. Following the public hearing, staff will present a recommendation regarding the extension of the 2019 bond referendum bond orders and next steps. We are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Olarte. Okay. Now is time for the public hearing for the extension of the 2019 bond orders, and I'll call on our clerk for any written comments or registered speakers.
We had one written comment and one registered speaker. Mary Collins expressed concern about the transparency and the long-term financial impacts of town bonds and property taxes. She supports extending access to unspent 2019 bond funds, but urges clearer and centralized reporting on cost, operations, and debt repayment, noting the rising expenses and taxes are creating hardships for residents on fixed incomes despite new development. And our one registered speaker is Sean Gill.
Mr. Hill, I'd invite you forward.
Gil.
Gill, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, Mayor, council members. I appreciate you having me. My name's Sean Gill. I live in Rigsby Farm neighborhood in West Cary, and I wanted to just chat for a quick minute and let you all know that I am in support of extending this bond. I hope you all do. I voted for it in 2019. Specifically, you'll see in the packet being passed out here, and I'll wait till it goes around here. I have a particular interest in one of the projects that was specifically mentioned as part of the 2019 bond was the Louis Stevens Sidewalk project. And that's pretty much the reason I voted for it. So if you flip to the second page there, I just kind of took this off the Town of Cary's website from the 2019 bond, information about it. And it talked about putting in a sidewalk, and I've got a map here in a second to show you where it's at, so I don't have slides up here ahead of time. But it's along Louis Stevens from High House up to Green Hope Elementary School in the Pleasant Village neighborhood, if you're familiar with that area, which is very close to where I live. I've had 2 kids go through Green Hope Elementary School, and I've got 2 kids that are now in Green Hope High School. I personally spend a lot of time at the Green Hope Elementary Park, which is great, and at the tennis park. I play beach volleyball and tennis similar, so I'm up and down this road almost daily, basically. And if you flip to the next page there, just as a quick illustration, it's just a Google Maps, and I put a green line to where that sidewalk was specifically proposed. And just so, if you haven't been down this road yourself, you have a little bit of context of what this is. Along Louis Stevens, it's a 2-lane road with no shoulders, and the speed limit there is 35 miles an hour. And there's not a lot of development there, it's just basically undeveloped farmland, more or less. If you have ever tried to walk or ride your bike on that road, which I have done several times, often with my kids in elementary school age, trying to get to Green Hope Elementary when we were trying to ride our bikes, it is a scary proposition doing that on the road there. It is terrifying, especially when you consider there's a lot of high school kids driving along there, going up and down to Green Hope High School. The other thing that's important about this, if you flip to the next page, in my opinion, the 2 neighborhoods that I have circled in red, Carrymore and Risby Farm, as I said, I live in Risby Farm, there basically is no way for kids to get to the Green Hope Elementary School or the tennis park if they're going there via bike or walking, right? Without going on that road, which is pretty much, we got to the point where we tell our kids you can't do it. It's too unsafe to do so. If you flip to the next page, the other thing that I think people also look over, I encourage you to go out there to the Cary Tennis Park on any school day that the high school's in session at about, I'm trying to think what time I drop my kids off there, between 6:45 and 7:15 a.m. and same thing in the afternoon. All the neighborhood high school kids treat the tennis park as a cut through, which I think is great if they want to walk to school there and go through there and not have to go all the way around to the main road. The problem is there's no sidewalks there for them to walk on, and they're coming and going, and they're crossing the street, and they're kind of meandering their shoulder there. Also pretty dangerous. And that kind of feeds all into Preston Village, Carrymore, a little bit of Risby Farm, or parents that dropping their kids off and going through there. So I hope the bond is extended, but also I hope when you do that this project is prioritized. I saw there was $78 million left in the transportation section of it, which this would come out of. So I would repeat, I did vote for the 2019 bond. I talked to a lot of my neighbors that knew it. I thought it was a great project to do, particularly this one. And then when it wasn't done, I kind of asking questions and I kind of never really got answers. And the explanation I'm kind of getting now is that it seems like it would be a lot more expensive to do it now because the increased material costs and all that, which I 100% believe compared to 2019. I'm sure that's the case. But if we had just done that at the beginning in 2021 when the bond was issued, I think we would have avoided a lot of this. And then as a result of this having not been done, just so you also understand, the last bond last fall, I voted against. And I talked to my neighbors and told them not to. And the reason I cited was because this wasn't done. And I thought it was kind of a little bit of a bait and switch. That probably wasn't the intent, but that's what it felt like. So I don't know how much of a difference I made, but I can tell you probably 50 to 100 people voted against it because I want to have this conversation as a result of it. And just the final point I will make here with the wrap up coming up here is that if you flip to the next page, I looked at some of the projects that were done with that bond for the sidewalk projects. And just one kind of caught my eye that I was honestly very surprised was prioritized over the Louis Stevens one, knowing that it was a smaller project and less expensive. But it was the Lily Atkins Road project. And basically, when I looked into it in a little more detail, it was a section of sidewalk in one neighborhood being fed to a
I got to cut you off.
private tennis club. So that's it. Thank you for your consideration. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any other registered speakers?
No additional registered speakers.
You're here this evening and would like to speak at this public hearing. Now's your opportunity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Renee Miller, a resident of District C, and I took an opportunity to take a look at this bond and the extension of the $100 million still available in this bond in light of that district. And it appears to me to be a good idea to continue to have this money available with certain considerations. The interest rate, of course, is much more favorable today than what we can get today. And so it would be advantageous to Cary to go ahead and continue this opportunity. Many of the projects in this bond, especially in the transportation bond, as we're just observed, have yet to be completed. And additional safety, especially for pedestrians and cyclists, should guide the priority of the money that's actually being spent. Several of these projects in District C include intersection improvements for pedestrian safety along Tryon Road and along Walnut Street. The intersection at Tryon and Kildare is of particular concern because of the coming development at Waverly Place as a destination center. A number of mixed-use developments are also approved or in some stage of development process in this area, and they too drive the need for improvements at large intersections. I agree with Mary Collins that transparency to the citizens as these projects are selected and completed is key. Citizens want to see that the money that they voted for is being spent as they intended. And with these items in mind, extending the 2019 bond orders seems to be a prudent move. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? I'll close the public hearing, and before I open it up to my colleagues, I'll ask a few questions. And I don't know who this goes to, probably Mr. Olarte. My understanding about bonds is, well, Cary's practice has always said, we're going to do these things with this bond. However, we are not required to do so. Is that true?
That is correct, Mayor.
So we could do something totally different. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm just saying that. What we ran into, and another thing, I'll look at the manager on this. The reason we delayed this is because we just don't have the bandwidth to do all the projects at one time. Is that a better way to say that?
I would say even more holistically is the council received lots of feedback about the need to keep taxes low. At the same time, they're hearing feedback about doing projects.
There's a lot of reasons why projects are delayed. And then I cannot remember, we had a big discussion about the Lily Atkins and the Lewis Stevens Drive, but I can't remember why we had to do Lily Atkins.
Well, the cost differential between the two is significant.
So now we're at a time where we cannot afford to do, with the bond money, all the projects on the list. So it comes to priority. Now, I've been on this council a long time, and so has Jennifer Robinson. I think from day one, she's been advocating for this. It's been a long, long time. From my point of view, Lewis Stevens has been a top priority for a long time, and I still think it is. I can't speak for my colleagues, but that's where it is for me. I don't know how much that costs. I don't know where the remaining $78 million of transportation goes. And I don't even know where the 22 million of parks goes because we can't do what was on the list. So that's where we're stuck with, is what do we do with that? However, it is clear to me that we need to extend the, I call it deadline, I don't know what it's called, but we need to extend to 2029 so we can make good decisions, so we can be transparent, so we can try to get the citizens to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we are in the process. So that's where I am. I have no problem extending it to 2029. I do think Lewis Stevens is a high priority, and we still will have time to discuss the rest of the priorities, right?
Well, I don't envision a time when we will stop talking about
Right.
the capital project needs, especially the ones that have already previously been identified, like Louis Stevens. I don't think there's anyone associated with the town staff or council that doesn't want to do Louis Stevens Drive or any of the projects that were already in the budget and were allocated in the bond issue.
So if we approve this tonight, how do you see that process moving forward with us making priority decisions?
Well, tonight, as was highlighted in the presentation, what you're doing tonight, there's all the technicalities. Bottom line is you're paying for the things that we've already done, right? So we've used current cash resources to do these projects. So the money that's allocated here, you've already spent. And so you're paying yourself back for that. As far as the projects that are yet to be done, that'll be discussed in the upcoming budget, every year during the budget process, and really probably at quarterly meetings every time in between.
Can you give me an estimate of how much is left after we pay ourselves back?
Well, really,
Ballpark, half?
The details are provided
Yeah.
in the next
Yeah, well,
presentation,
Oh.
so you'll get quite a bit of details in the next presentation.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, part of it is trying to answer, there's the technical parts of this, and then there's the general kind of budgeting, where are we at? And so I was trying to determine what type of question you're asking me. Is it about this specifically, or overall, how much money is left to meet our bond priority needs?
I think it's very confusing for the citizens to understand this, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to get information to help them
Sure,
understand. That's
sure.
kind of where I'm coming
Sure.
from.
Yeah.
So we had authority in 2019. We haven't used all of that authority. We said we're going to do these things, and now we can't.
And I
So-
think it's really, sorry, Mary, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the cost explosions, historic cost explosions, when projects go from $5 and $6 million to $15 million simply because of cost of materials and labor, they're no longer the same project.
Sure.
Right? And so the 2019 deliberations would have been very, very different if we would have been able to anticipate those type of cost increases. So it's forced the council and via the community to kind of reassess, and right now we're just taking a step back to look at those projects, have an understanding of what the public's willingness to pay for these things are, and kind of then proceeding forward in the next several years. But I would imagine that the projects that were listed in the 2019 bonds will be a starting place because you've gotten at least some previous feedback from the community about those. So there's a very important kind of foundational piece to those projects versus other projects. But, we just can't talk about enough with our citizens that the price increases we're experiencing are historic and unprecedented and never been seen before. And there is no evidence that it's going to get better anytime soon.
And just for a reference point of what he's talking about, sidewalks have increased 200% in 5 years. That's an amazing increase in 5 years. That's incredible. Okay, I'll open up my colleagues. I've spoken enough.
Well, I'll just say, I was glad that Mr. Gill came and presented. Obviously, you know that I'm very concerned about Lewis Stevens Drive and the safety on there. I think going forward, the right approach for us is when we feel like we have capacity to pay off debt and therefore issue debt, we should look at the projects that were considered for the 2019 transportation and prioritize those that have safety implications. And I think Lewis Stevens Drive is at the top of that list. It is extremely unsafe, and I live very close to it, and so every single day I witness people, youth and senior citizens, people who've moved here from another country, and people who come here from other countries, they may not have had education about walking with your facing traffic. So there's a lot of people who walk with their back to traffic on Lewis Stevens Drive. It's just a very unsafe road with many attractors on it. You know, at the south end, you have the Stone Creek Shopping Center with the Chick-fil-A, and we all know what an attractor that is. And then you have the elementary school, the high school, the volleyball courts, the town of Cary, you know, soccer fields, the library. It is just, did I say tennis park too? I mean, we just have so many amenities along there. Caramore, the children in Caramore could walk to school if that sidewalk was built. They're that close, but because there is that segment that has no sidewalk, they can't walk to school. And we all know that walking to school is way healthier than getting on a bus or having your parent drive you. So I hope that the time will come soonish that we can leverage enough debt to tackle that problem, even with the cost overages that we've had. So anyway, after everybody else speaks, I'm happy to make a motion.
Can I do a follow-up, because I thought of one more question? Just to be clear, so I help others understand, even though we extend this bond order, we still don't have to spend it. Not that I would recommend that, but we could still say in 2029, if we haven't done anything, it expires, we're not spending it because of debt or whatever. Yeah, okay. Others?
I'll just say that, first of all, I appreciate Mary Collins sending her remarks and expressed her desire for more transparency. I agree with that. And thank you, Mr. Gill, for coming down today to share what your thoughts are. I want to tell you that there was a work session or multiple work sessions where the council has spent time reviewing each and every project and seeing which one is worthy of moving forward as soon as the funds are available. And most of the projects on this list were considered very, very important. And I remember Mayor Pro Tem making a comment that this project is very close to my heart because I see kids walking, like, you know, on these on the road, and which is obviously something that, you know, we need to look into. I would say some of the projects that are very close to my heart are on this list. They're the entry points for my district. And I have been making Sean's life very difficult because every single time I ask him, where's the money? And he's like, Sarika. So I can tell you that every person who's representing a district and their project is on this list, it makes life a little bit more difficult for us because we understand how critical these projects are, but they're still on this list and we still have to understand the need to keep the taxes low and make sure that we are not pricing out people, and also understanding the cost and inflation is balanced. And it's a very, very difficult place to be in because we want these improvements. We understand this is needed as of yesterday, but, you know, that's where I guess the informed decision comes in, and I believe that's where we are right now as a council.
Other comments?
I would only echo that the extension's the right thing to do, and I do think, as Ms. Jennifer said, the priority has to be looking at the safety as you go back, and part of that will be sidewalks and the importance of that. You have it in Lois Stevens, but as one of the citizens said that came up, you've got a lot of issues on Westlake is like our forgotten child, you know, way out at the end of Cary. They have some, with all the schools out there, they have some serious sidewalk issues. We have issues on Walnut, we have issues on Tryon. So the point is, times have changed. I think the sidewalk is even more than 200%, but it's a hell of a lot more. And I just think that as we need the extension, and then you need to have a real focused discussion on the priorities with safety as the ultimate priority. That would be my thoughts.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion if you'd like.
Please.
I move that we adopt the order authorizing the extension of a bond order authorizing $112 million Parks and Recreation Facilities bonds of the town of Cary, North Carolina, and direct the town clerk to publish the order as required by law.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
There's a
assume-
second.
Sorry.
Oh, that's right, there's two.
Okay.
I'm
I
sorry.
move that we adopt the order authorizing the extension of a bond order authorizing $113 million in transportation bonds of the town of Cary, North Carolina, and direct the town clerk to publish the order as required by law.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now we're going to move into discussion, which is a related topic, so I assume you guys are going to stay right there. The discussion item is the resolution for issuance of general obligation bond anticipation notes. Debt and Investment Manager Olarte will once again present the report, and council may take action.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I am excited to now speak with you about Cary's proposed financing utilizing bond anticipation notes. As Dana mentioned earlier, this financing option provides Cary with a flexible, low-cost option to support current and future bond projects. Bond anticipation notes, or BANs for short, are state-approved financing mechanism for interim debt. They are short-term debt and are typically issued for a period of 2 to 3 years. This financing vehicle is similar to a bank line of credit where you draw down money on the loan when needed. The name bond anticipation notes is helpful as it is descriptive of what they are. They are debt issued in anticipation of a future bond issue. They are issued to borrow money now in anticipation of a long-term financing, which is then used to repay the loan back to the bank. This is a well-utilized financing option in North Carolina, and the Local Government Commission has authorized numerous recent bans for North Carolina municipalities such as Raleigh and Charlotte. The benefits of bans include lower initial costs, the ability to fund projects as needed, and a faster financing process. Since they function similar to a bank line of credit, Cary will only pay the interest on the loan amount and not pay the principal on the loan until they are refunded with long-term debt. Bans, in conjunction with the bond order extension you just authorized, will also provide Cary with more time and flexibility to issue future bonds as needed and during appropriate market conditions. As mentioned during the public hearing for the bond orders extension, Cary issued $125 million of the 2019 referendum bonds, and those funds have been spent and allocated. These bonds funded projects such as the downtown Cary Park, renovation projects at neighborhood parks such as Annie Jones, the neighborhood parks on Carpenter Fire Station and McCrimmon Parkway, the Carpenter Fire Station Road Bridge and Intersection Improvement Project, and numerous street and intersection improvements. Other budgeted projects, such as the Fenton Public Infrastructure Development Project and Cedar Street and Academy Street public parking projects, continue to proceed. So far, approximately $25 million in expenses have been incurred by these transportation projects, and due to IRS rules regarding reimbursement, Cary needs to issue funds soon to cover these expenses or miss out on the opportunity to reimburse the money back to Cary's cash accounts. A benefit of the bans is that this money would be reimbursed back to Cary following the closing of the financing. In addition to allowing Cary to immediately be reimbursed for the approximately $25 million in expenses already incurred for the Fenton Public Infrastructure and the public downtown parking projects, $20 million of the bans have been designated for budgeted transportation projects from Council's continued list. These transportation projects are nearing completion and include the completion of the Fenton Public Infrastructure and public downtown parking projects, as well as additional sidewalk and street improvements and NCDOT local projects. This is where the flexibility of bond anticipation notes is a benefit to Cary. Bands will allow Cary to draw down the funds for these budgeted, continue projects as needed going forward, thereby providing cost savings for Cary. The remaining $5 million of the bands are designated for possible future park projects on council's reassess list. Examples of projects from the reassess list could include open space acquisition, Cary Action Sports, or any other bond authorized parks project. The decision of which reassess projects to spend this money on will continue to be a part of the ongoing discussions with council as a part of the normal budget process. In preparation for council's review and consideration of the band's financing, staff issued a request for proposals to prospective lenders on June 26. Responses were received on July 17th. Cary received 4 competitive bids as listed here from JP Morgan, PNC, Truist, and Wells Fargo. PNC's response was the lowest cost when compared to the other respondents and the most beneficial to Cary. Based on the responses received, staff recommends proceeding with PNC Bank for the bond anticipation notes. The timeline for the band's issuance started with the bank request for proposal, which was released on June 26, with responses received on July 17th. Should council vote tonight to adopt the bond anticipation note authorizing resolution, the local government commission will review the financing on September 9th. The band's financing will then fund and close on or about October 7th. Before closing this presentation, I'd like to revisit the benefits and advantages of bond anticipation notes. They provide lower initial costs, the ability to fund projects as needed, and a faster financing process. And by issuing the bands now, Cary can meet IRS timing guidelines to successfully reimburse the $25 million already spent on the Fenton Public Infrastructure and Cedar Academy Street public parking projects. Similar to a bank line, Cary will only pay for the money as it is drawn from the bank, which provides Cary with the flexible, low-cost option to fund future bond projects on the continue and reassess lists. This, in conjunction with the bond order extension, provides Cary with more time and flexibility to issue future bond depending on future market conditions while Cary finalizes the prioritization of the remaining capital projects. In closing, before you tonight is a resolution to authorize the issuance of bands in a not-to-exceed amount of $50 million from PNC Bank, with $45 million for transportation projects and $5 million for parks and recreational facilities. Staff recommend council approval of the resolution. Dana and I are happy to answer any questions. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. Olarte. So I'll open it up to council members for questions or comments
I'll make a motion.
or a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution providing for the issuance of a general obligation public improvement bond anticipation note, Series 2025, in an amount not to exceed $50 million.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now move to our last item, the Cary Policy Review. Mayor Pro Tem Robinson asked for this item to be pulled off the agenda, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Great, thank you so much. So our staff is going through a cleanup process and eliminating some policies that we've had in place for quite a while. And in the staff report, it was unclear to me what elements of those policies are either irrelevant to us now for some reason, or are covered under a newer policy that's been adopted. So I talked with Lisa, our attorney, and asked her if she could help me understand these 3 policies that we're eliminating and tell us what the provisions are that are going away.
Yeah, absolutely. So on your screen, you see the 3 that are recommended for deletion. The first one is a computer purchase policy, and that policy you all implemented years ago, 25 or so years ago, to provide interest-free loans for employees, and the goal at that time was to increase computer literacy. Again, 25 years ago when computers were sort of-ish a new thing. So the policy continues now in the form of a standard procedure that's adopted by the manager and that our Human Resources Department still runs, which still provides interest-free loans to employees for computer purchase. But the need for a council policy on that just seemed a bit outdated.
Okay.
So that was the reason for that one. Political signs, you all probably remember me, those of you who've been on council for a few years, talking about political signs a lot. So originally you adopted that policy statement in 2005 when you changed your rules at that time about political signs and how many people could have and et cetera. But you may remember in 2015, there was a U.S. Supreme Court case that really changed the landscape for signs. So in 2016, we did a complete overhaul of the sign ordinance. And at that time, we changed, because we had to, how we regulate political signs. So the original policy statement documents why you enacted your 2005 regulations. And that's not relevant anymore because we've changed everything. And at the 2016 adoption, you actually have 10 pages of explanation for why you adopted the 2016 regulations, and they're included as part of the ordinance. So the need for the old policy statement from 2005 has been ameliorated by the 2016 ordinance. And then the last one is a transit policy. This policy is one that's necessary to show our compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. The current policy is about 3 pages long. It's really been replaced by something that you now adopt every 3 years, and that's required by the Federal Transit Administration. So now we have about a 15-page policy that's available on the website, and that, again, you see every 3 years, and you will see it again in January. And it just gives a lot of detail about how we equitably provide transit, including our service area, what kind of amenities we have at stops, and that sort of thing. And so, again, it's morphed from a 3-page policy statement that stayed static over the years to now a much larger, more in-depth document that you review every 3 years and adopt again. So the need for the policy statement, we didn't see the need for it to remain.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I think as we move forward in eliminating policies, if we can just have that tie back into what's the new thing that is superseding it.
Right. Yep.
That's great. Thank you.
Other comments, thoughts, questions?
I can make a motion.
Please.
I make a motion that we approve the recommended deletion of these 3 policies as articulated by Lisa Glover.
And the other amendments to the other 3 that are in the
And the
staff
amendments to the other 3 policies that were in the report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That concludes our agenda. We have no closed session, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. No, I appreciate it.